Welcome to my brief presentation about my experience of setting up a plastic bottle hydroponic system. I found the idea of using plastic bottles for hydroponic growing in a publication that proposed it as a fun option for children, which seemed the perfect level for me, and an interesting idea. I knew nothing at all about hydroponics and not much about gardening, but I had two priorities. Number one, I wanted to keep the cost down. Hydroponic systems can be extremely expensive. And number two, I wanted to use recycled materials as far as possible. Then the first lockdown happened and I had nothing to do. So I had a go, and here you can see the results in our garden, which I'll talk more about later. First things first, what did I need? I don't buy water or any other drinks in plastic bottles, so I collected them from friends and neighbours, and when I needed more, I paid our local recycling guy to filter some out for me. As you can see from this list, no special tools are needed to set up the system. You could make most of the holes without a drill, and even the irrigation pipes aren't necessary if you're prepared to water each plant individually. I started out like that, but changed once I got past 20 or so, because watering them took the whole morning. But whatever you decide, the first steps you see here remain the same for the first two irrigation options I'm going to show you. Cutting the bottle in half, making a hole in the bottle top and threading the string through, leaving the end long enough to reach down into the base and spraying the lower half black, or any darker colour. This prevents the sunlight causing algae to grow inside. I went for a more colourful look with some of mine, and it still seems to work. Anyway, back to the irrigation systems. I'm going to tell you about the options I've either tried or am trying still. Option 1 was my first try. An intuitive, easy-to-install system that worked up to a point. Basically, it consists of a hole drilled midway up the lower section of the bottle, just large enough for the 5mm irrigation pipe to be pushed through. The other end is pushed into a larger 25mm pipe and fixed in using the little attachment that you can see pictured here. Everything is available from any hardware shop that stocks garden irrigation systems. The pro is that it's easy to install. The con is that the water rushes in from your single source and then distributes itself evenly across all the bottles. But some thirsty plants will use it more quickly and will need what I call the constant wilt watch, while the others may be drowning. Option 2, designed by my husband, specifically addresses the thirsty plant issue. He drilled a hole in the base of the pots, pushed a short length of 5mm pipe into them, and then linked the first one into the irrigation bottle and all the other pipes between all the pots to make the single system you can see here. This means that the water fills in as the plants drink and the level is maintained, so that no plant is either drowning or wilting. At the back you can see the irrigation bottles, suspended slightly higher to ensure good flow. Another pro is that it doesn't need the 25mm pipe. The con is that it can be fiddly to install, needing glue in the bottom part of the bottle to secure the pipe. The holes you can see midway are from the option 1 system because I wanted to reuse the bottles, but they're also useful for overflow if there's a heavy rain. Here I should say that both systems need some form of frame to hold the bottles. We had these made, but any kind of wooden structure made out of leftovers would be just as good. Option 3, a husband-wife joint effort this time, is still in its prototype phase, but has lots of good points for people with small spaces and budgets. Basically, it's a pipe with holes drilled so that bottles can be stuck in. The pros are: 1. It doesn't need any kind of irrigation system and is very simple to make. 2. The water is maintained at one level for the thirsty and not so thirsty plants. 3. It doesn't need a frame, but can be attached to walls for saving space. 4. A full-size bottle can be used after cutting the base off, which gives the roots more growing room. 5. It doesn't need black spray. Here you can see some plants that I've just put in. It'll be interesting to find out whether the longer bottle works better for the root growth or not. And here is an example of what the slugs do to my ground level plants, so I'm hoping that being raised out of reach might save this one. After deciding on the irrigation option, the rest is simple. Fill each upturned half bottle with a growing medium. I buy mine and find the pine bark and coconut fibre mixture works well, but I'm sure more professional gardeners could make their own. Then you need to put in your plant, which is pretty much as you would for any new seedling, and then add water, through whichever bottle feeder you've decided to use. I water every morning and check in the evening. Next, you need to add the nutrient, which can be either extremely complicated or very basic. I started off with the pH readings, mixing my own, etc., but quickly went on to buying ready mixed nutrients, which seem to work well. Again, professional gardeners will do much better than I can with this, though it has to be said that my plants survive and thrive even when I forget. It's inspiring and fascinating to see the root growth here. I never get tired of looking at them. Nature is amazing. At this point, it might be useful if I mention the plants that seem to grow particularly well in a hydroponic system. Spinach and salad are absolutely certain to thrive, but I've grown cabbage, broccoli, Brussels sprouts and aubergine with success too. Some herbs seem to positively love hydro, while others curl up and die. Basil thrives, coriander and parsley too, but sage hates it. In the end, I think it's just a case of what you want and trial and error. I've also been experimenting with some other hydroponic options that you can see here, using bottles and other bits and pieces that I've either had at home or found somewhere. The sweet corn or maize does really well, and as you can see, I'm growing another one in a traditional pot as a control. And finally, why hydroponics? Why am I so positive that it could help people with small budgets and minimal space? Well, first, it's a system that doesn't waste water, and some plants seem to grow particularly well in the hydro environment. Then the system is cheaper than anything you could buy off the shelf, and gives plastic bottles a second life, as opposed to littering our streets or being recycled. But for me, the most important element is that it can be installed by anyone in the smallest of spaces without needing good soil. My hope is that people will be able to look at the idea, adapt it to their own needs, and then grow enough for themselves and their family. It's as simple as that.